welcome to Coffee and Connection. Consider this our Monday morning coffee catch-up. I tried to do the peppermint mocha cold foam and it disintegrated. I don't know how I feel about that. But consider this our coffee catch-up together where we just get together to start the week off and prep to be better connectors in the week ahead. So welcome to episode 1 of this. And to kick things off, you know that quote, I say it a lot, it's better to be interested than interesting? Well, that is what we are going to focus on today. So today is about how to have better conversations. Now, these are things that I have studied, tried, and you're gonna hear still working on, but just a real quick, real nice coffee chat hangout on how we can have better connections. So let's get started. And just so you know, we're gonna go through 4 things, which by the way is like a YouTube no-no. Like it should always be a 3, a 5, a 10. Think about it. Has anyone ever gone, let me tell you the 4 things you gotta know? No, they don't, but I'm going to. So here we go. So number 1 thing, and this one, anyone who knows me in real life and watches this is going, okay, strategic pausing in conversations. This is a hard one for me. So we're starting with the one that I'm definitely still working on, strategic pausing. Here's the thing, silences make me nervous. I don't know if you can relate. It's definitely genetic. I have family members that do it too, and I've actually gotten a lot better with just letting overall silence lie. Like if you have a friend that, or someone, like if you're on a long car ride with someone and it's a point where they're not talking and you're just tired of carrying the conversation, I just quit. At a certain point, I go, I can't carry this conversation anymore. So we're just gonna sit in silence. And if they wanna fix the silence, they can pick it back up. But in conversations with people that I'm brand new to, in conversations at a networking mixer or things at work, I'm not as great at the strategic pause. I wanna respond immediately. I wanna jump in with questions, but even if I'm asked something, I go with the first thought. And Jefferson Fisher talks about this. Are you watching Jefferson Fisher? Just curious. He says, let your breath be the first word you say. So it somehow creates space for genuine connection. Because when someone asks you a question and you take a second to breathe, you are actually giving a moment to show, hey, I'm really processing and taking in what you asked me to come up with a quality answer instead of, oh, that's just the first thing on the top of my head. So like I said, I still struggle with this part on my end. I want to just jump in with the first thing I've thought of. I want to ask other people questions right away. And instead I am working on when someone asks something, pause, think about, is that really what I want to say? What's kind of the biggest thing I want to get across? And then starting with that answer. This also can help, bonus tip, this was not on here, but I'm gonna just tell you, this can also help with figuring out kind of what I was just saying, figuring out the most important part to say. Another tip I have heard is when someone asks you a question, give the immediate answer first and then give all the background. Because what happens when someone asks us a question? Somebody could go, what did you do on Friday? And instead of just saying, oh, on Friday night, my friends and I had dinner, your brain goes, on Friday I had dinner, but it almost didn't work out because so-and-so did this and da-da-da-da-da. And so we start really far back and we go, well, Friday afternoon, I got this phone call and they're going, no, but what did you do for, and you go through the whole thing before you maybe answer them and say, oh, and then we went and got dinner. And they've been sitting there going, could you not have told me that? So if you pause, you can kind of think, collect yourself and go, okay, let me tell them, oh, I got dinner with friends, but the thing that was kind of crazy about it was, and then you can back up and tell the rest. Seriously, how many of us are bad at this and how many of us watch other people be bad at this? Where you're just like, can you just answer the question? Instead, they tell you everything else. You're like, don't give me all the reasons first, give me the answer. So it can help in figuring out which should I be saying first. Now, the next tip, ask deepening questions instead of sharing more about yourself. So what happens a lot in conversation is somebody shares about something that they did, okay? And then we end up coming back with, oh, and I did this. You share your experience. What did you do this weekend? They tell you, and then you go, oh, well, I also did blah, 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 blah this weekend. Instead of sharing about yourself, ask them more about them. Just keep asking questions. Think about what was your favorite part of that experience? How did that make you feel? Two really easy ones to go to. But this is where the quote comes in. It's more important to be interested than interesting. And the interesting part is, I know for those of us who are connectors and who are storytellers, we think we're connecting when we swap stories, but it actually comes off as competition and comparison. So you tell me how you went to Puerto Vallarta for summer vacation, and I love that you went there because, oh, in college in my early 20s, my family went on vacation there every year. I love Puerto Vallarta. Where did you stay? Oh, I love that restaurant too. This was my experience. And I think I'm connecting. I think, oh, we have this thing in common and I'm telling you how much I like it too. And instead, it can sound like one-upping. And so what you got to do instead is just ask them questions. Sinek actually points this out in his research on trust building, that asking questions deepens a relationship more than sharing your own experiences. So that helps me know when my brain goes, ooh, but I really want to share with you what I did too. Like, that should connect us. It's like, no. Research has shown asking you more questions about you is what's going to connect us. And that's true, right? People want to talk about themselves. They don't want to hear about you. So just be a giver and ask more questions. For connectors, for my introvert connectors, you're great at that. For my extrovert connectors, we can struggle, right? We can struggle with that because especially for us story sharers, this is hard. Okay, this is hard. We have a good story to tell. We have something that relates. We go, oh my gosh, I have this crazy, amazing story that goes along with what they just said. I want to share it. But all that does is take the spotlight off of them and put it on you. And that's not what we want to do if we want to build relationships. So what helps me with this is I like to think about the few and far between times somebody went deeper with me. Because also, let's be real, this is not a skill most people have. I am shocked how many things I go to where nobody asks a question, where I am asking questions and no one even does the turnaround and goes, and what about you? No one ever asks. But I do have a couple of people, and one person in particular, that was an amazing question asker. So I had a friend back in LA that I would walk away from like group hangs and go, you know, so-and-so is so good at asking, like he asks such thoughtful questions. I wish I could do that. I want to be better at that because I look at that and I go, think about how he made me feel. I always felt more connected. I always felt like he was actually listening and taking in what I was saying. Where some of our other friends, they were fun, but they didn't make me feel that way. And so I just kind of go, oh yeah, let him be my example. I need to try and be more like him when I go into conversations. So if you have a person who's made you feel great because of the questions they asked you, think of them as your example and go from there. Okay, so the next way to have better conversations is you are going to create safety through warmth. Now, when I say conversations have to be long, so warmth is those small touch points of things like, good morning, how are you today? What did you do this weekend? Or what are your plans for this week? Those small moments are warm. They're warm moments. And here's the thing, I know I've said this like on the podcast before, you don't realize how much those little things matter until they're gone. When you end up working in an office where nobody does it, or when you work in an office where everybody does except for one person, that one person comes off as cold because they are not the one sharing, saying good morning. They're not part of the pleasantries, and pleasantries actually matter. And it turns out they matter because warmth isn't just warmth for warmth's sake. If that was a drinking game, we'd all be on the floor right now. It actually builds trust. It actually makes people feel safe. And safety builds trust. So again, Jefferson Fisher talks about this. He shares how trust must be built before any crisis occurs. You need trust so that in a crisis you can trust each other. And he emphasizes that warmth is the key feeling that conveys trustworthiness and confidence. So if you want people to trust you, crisis or not, if you want people to trust you, to see you as someone they feel comfortable with, to have confidence in you, you need to have warmth, which I'll just be honest, I see it lacking more and more and more in this world. We all gotta work on our warmth a little bit. I say that in the coldest way possible. We all gotta do it. Yeah. No, we need to work on being warm. So going with the good morning example, a huge way I think to create that safety is it has to be consistent. You know, if you say good morning one day and you don't the next 3 days and then you do again, we're creating inconsistency, which does not lead to confidence, which does not lead to feeling safe. It might be warm for a moment, but it's not an ongoing feeling. And so consistency too is what really creates that safety. And then for number 4, this is another one I am always working on. We are all just works in progress, y'all. This is one I'm always working on. Acknowledging emotions before solving the problem. So if you want to have better conversations, if someone is telling you about an issue that's going on, whether it's work, personal life, etc., if you're a fixer, you start to go straight into, well, have you thought about doing this? Well, blah, blah, blah. What if you did this? And it's like, I didn't need you to tell me what to do. Instead, you need to acknowledge their emotions. This is, it's become cliche, but there is truth to, wow, that must be really hard, or that sounds really frustrating. Just acknowledging emotion to someone is going to help before we swoop in and try and fix a problem. Now, also, there's also that great thing of asking, do you want help with this issue, or do you just want to vent about it? Because sometimes we don't need the help. We just need to vent, right? This happens with parents a lot, where you call home and you say, oh, this thing's going on, it's so hard, and your mom just starts giving you the answers and you go, I didn't need you to solve it for me. I just needed you to hear me out. Like, there's no acknowledgement of the frustration, and you need that first. So as someone who loves to problem solve, and I can catch myself rushing into problem solve all the time, I am trying really hard to acknowledge those emotions, and I would encourage you to do the same thing. That is how people feel seen and understood, and you're gonna feel more connected. Now, one thing I find kind of interesting is I feel like now in the world, there are certain things that we think everyone should just know naturally, and that if you had to learn it, especially with something that's a soft skill like connection or communication, or in this case, what we're talking about, both, people in the world act like, oh, that's really manipulative because you had to learn a skill. This isn't to be manipulative. This is to help relationships deepen. Everyone needs to work on these sorts of things. And these techniques help create genuine connection. I think that's the other thing, is just because you had to work at something or like try on a skill for the day, like, oh, I'm gonna pause before answering a question, doesn't mean it's not genuine. You're just working on it. I know I'm making an argument that like I'm adding a defense about something no one said, but I just wanted to put it out there because I feel like this is something that comes up. So these are just some ways to start making better, genuine connections. I would love to know in this week, for this week ahead, before next Monday's coffee chat, what are you going to try? Are you going to try and take that intentional pause before answering? Are you going to acknowledge emotions first? Are you going to say good morning every day this week, or good night as you leave, even if it's on Slack? Or are you going to ask more follow-up questions instead of sharing your own story? And bonus, are you going to work on answering the actual question before giving all the detail? Really, there are some people in my life that need to work on this one. So let me know in the comments what you want to work on. And these are our coffee chats. You hear me a little more off the cuff here while still getting some tangible tips. Let me know if there's an area of connection you really want to hear about for an upcoming coffee hang. I would love to know so we can all become better connectors. Weird little thing before we go. There is a new thing on YouTube called hype points, okay? Hype points. You can give your hype points to channels. This is, the like button is great, but this helps YouTube know of all the new content coming out. People are watching this. So if you enjoyed this, I would love if you hit me up with some points. You should see them down below. That'd be great. So until we meet next Monday for another coffee hang, just remember it is better to be interested than interesting, and lead with that for the week ahead. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.